We are in Daf Mem. Today's Daf is Mem Ches, 48. We are in Daf Mem Zayin on base 47b at the bottom. We have a question. Well, we had Rabbi Yochanan Rudi said that if a person's asleep, nevertheless, he acquires his space for Shabbos. And the question was, well, what about ownerless items? And even there, we said, Rabbi Yochanan Rudi says, ownerless items acquire their space for Shabbos. The Chachamim disagree. Now the question is, what about items that are owned but by a non-Jew? Does it acquire its space for Shabbos and is limited to its space? Or do we say, no, it doesn't acquire its space because it's owned by a non-Jew, and the non-Jew doesn't keep Shabbos, and so therefore it doesn't acquire its space for Shabbos, and once it comes to into the possession of a Jew, it will acquire Shabbos. And then we have the story of these rams that were brought into this place called Mavrachta, and the people of Mechuzah, which was Rava's city, he told them, "Oh, you can purchase this on Yantiv, because even though it came out of Tchum, but they were owned by a non-Jew, so it doesn't acquire Shabbos. It doesn't acquire its space for Shabbos and Yantiv." To which Ravina challenged Rava and said, "But what about the statement that we said in the name of Rabbi Yochanan, Rabbi Barabbin said in the name of Rabbi Yochanan, that even though it's true that it does not, that non-Jewish owned items do not acquire their space for Shabbos, but since they are owned, and a person may make a mistake and think, well, if it's owned by a non-Jew, if it's owned by a non-Jew, it doesn't acquire Shabbos, so too when it's owned by a Jew, it does not acquire Shabbos, and items don't need to have their Shabbos space. So therefore, Rabbi Yochanan said it's prohibited to use items from a non-Jew that came outside the Tchum because we treat it as if it did acquire a Shabbos space. To which the Gemara says, Hadar Amar Rava, this is the third to last line at the bottom of Mem Zayin Amud Beis. Hadar Amar Rava, Lizdavnu Lebnei Mavrachta. Fine, the people of Mechuzah can't buy it, but the people of Mavrachta could buy it. Now, even though it came from another city, and now it's in this town outside of the Tchum, but nevertheless, the Kula Mavrachta Ledidhu Kadalat Amazdami, because the entire city of Mavrachta should count as as 4 amos. As we saw this concept that Rabbi Gamliel said, that when something is enclosed in a full enclosure, like we saw an animal pen or a boat, there it all counts as one space of 4 amos. And so too, this city of Mavrachta, Tosa points out, would have to have been that it was enclosed. It had a wall around it. And therefore, it should count as 4 amos. And so even though that you can only use these rams within 4 amos, but the whole city counts as 4 amos, and so it's going to be enough. Tanya Rabbi Chia taught cherem, which is a type of fishnet, shabein techum Shabbos, that was in the river between 2 techum Shabbos. So you have village A on the west side and village B on the east side, and they equal to 2,000 amma, and there's a fish net exactly in the middle. So cherem shabein techum Shabbos tzarech mechitza shel barzel lahafsika. So Rabbi Chia said it requires a 10 tefachim wall of steel, of metal, as a barrier between the two, so that the water from one area, from one techum, not go to the other, because otherwise, when you take water, you may be taking a mixture of water that you're allowed to take because it's in the techum, it's in the boundary of your city, and mixed with water from the boundary of the other, because the water is mixing. So you need a 10 tefachim, which is about 30 inches. You need a 10 tefachim wall of metal to separate the water. So Rabbi Yosef Hanina laughed about this, or smiled about it in a way that disapprovingly. So my tamak. So the Gemara says, so what was it that he thought was so wrong about this, that he laughed about it? Is it because he's ruling like Rabbi Yochanan that even an ownerless item has has a Shabbos space, a Shabbos domain, and therefore you can't go beyond 2,000 amma, and that's a stringency. He's strict like Rabbi Yochanan Nuri, like Rabbanan Lekula, and he Rabbi Yezeb Chanina, who was laughing about this, who said he himself held that you could be lenient, like the Chachamim, that ownerless items do not have a Shabbos space, and therefore whoever acquires it, whoever draws the water, it goes by their space. So Gemara says, just because he holds that you can be lenient, he would laugh or smirk at someone who is strict. That's not a sufficient reason to be disapproving of another opinion just because you hold differently. Rather because of this brisa. And we saw this earlier already. Rivers that are flowing and streams that are flowing that come from under the ground. They follow everybody that draws from it. Whoever draws from it, that defines its space. So Gemara says, maybe there it's only that it came from a river, but now it's gathered water. But indeed, over here it's going to be different. So rather, the reason is because he said you need to put in this metal wall, lafsiko, to divide the waters. So what are you going to say? So why did he laugh about it? So Gemara says, why did you say reeds? Why did you say metal? Reeds won't work because that wouldn't work because the water would actually flow through a wall of reeds between each one of the slats. So but in a metal wall, also, all you need is 10 tefachim from the top down, so the water can flow underneath it. So he says, you're right. That it wouldn't actually work. However, the Dilma, maybe what he meant is tzarich, ve'en takana. Maybe what he meant is you're obligated in a wall. However, ein lo takana, but it won't work on account of there's no way to fix it because the water is going to flow through anyhow. So there's no question on why he said you need this metal wall. He's saying you need some barrier, even a metal wall, but it won't work because, and that's what he means. You need a wall, but since you can't get a wall there, it's not going to work. So that's not the reason he laughed, but rather he laughed because water is different, and we've seen this already before as well. Since water was such a necessary staple, the Chachamim were lenient in various halachas in regards to water. We saw that the Yumdin around the well, that you allow the corner L-shaped corners as your boundary, as your dividers. We saw that if you have a porch over water and you want to draw water in, so all you have to do is make a wall from your porch down, and that would be sufficient even if it doesn't reach all the way, and you can draw water up. Like Rabbi Tavla said that there was a leniency by water. Rabbi Tavla asked of Rav, Mechitza Taluya, if you have a hanging wall, meaning that you had a porch, and then from the porch down, you have a hanging wall, but it doesn't go all the way down to the water. And you want to draw up water from beneath, so what are you going to do? Ma'usha Tatir Churva would be sufficient that would be, so his question is, if you have a hanging wall in a ruin, you had built a structure, and it was basically a building that is collapsing, but it has part of the wall, but the wall is only at the top, not at the bottom. Does that count? No, a hanging wall would only be valid over water. And the reason is because the Chachamim were lenient in regards to water to allow you to draw water into a private domain, because the water really is not a public domain because it doesn't service 600,000 people. It's not a straight street from one end of the city to the other. However, it is a Carmelist. It's this in-between space, and therefore which is rabbinically prohibited, and therefore the Chachamim were lenient in regards to the water because water is such a necessity. Going back to the Mishnah said that Rabbi Yochanan Nuri says that somebody who was asleep for Shabbos has 2,000 amma. He acquires a space, and the Chachamim say no, he only has 4 amos. And now we had 3 opinions in the Mishnah. What those 4 amos, how you measure them. The first opinion said you have 4 on each side. You have 8 amos really. So the first opinion said he's in the middle, meaning there are 4 amos on either side. Rabbi Yehuda Omer, whichever way he wants to go. Now, what's the difference between whichever way he wants to go, or it's or he's in the middle? And the Mishnah concludes that Yehuda says that if he chose one side, he cannot go the other side. So that's the Gemara is going to tell us is that distinction. Rabbi Yehuda is the same as the first opinion. Amar Rava, so Rava said, Shmona al Shmona ekabenai. The distinction is, do you have a complete 8? Do you have only 4 on each, 4 total, 2 on each side? Because you're in the middle of the 4. Do we say you have 4 on either side? Or do we say that you have 4 on either side, but once you pick a side, that's the side you go? So, Rabbi Meir is the first opinion, says he has 8 by 8, meaning he's in the middle. He's got 4 on one side, 4 on the other, 4 in front, 4 behind. So that's 8 by 8. V'amar Rava said another difference. Machlokes lahalich, that the machlokes in regards is another matter. Is that he says that machlokes is in regards to going. You can go step to 4 amos on either side, or 2 amos on either side, or 4 amos to one side. Avalataltel, but to carry, divrei hakol arba amos in tefillah. You can only carry 4 amos and no more. Where do we base this concept of 4 amos? Where does it come from? Okay, the Tanya, like it says, shavu ish tachtov. It says in the Torah in regards to Shabbos in travel. Right? It says, everybody stay where you are. Every person shall sit, dwell, tachtov, on the space beneath him. So obviously, where you sit is on the space beneath you. So what does it mean? Tachtov, ketachtov. That you have your space that's beneath you when you're down on the ground. V'kama tachtov. So how much is beneath a person? Gufa shalosh amos. A person himself is about 3 amos. Let's say about 4.5 feet. Va'ama kadei liv shet yadav raglav. And then he can spread his legs forward and his arms back over his head. And that's going to take it another amma. So that's going to take it to about 6 feet. Rabbi Meir. That's Rabbi Meir's opinion. Rabbi Yehuda Meir. Rabbi Yehuda says, Gufa shalosh amos va'ama kadei lito chayfetz metachtov magalos v'meniach tachas marashosov. Rabbi Yehuda says the calculation is this: not that he's stretching his legs forward and his arms over his head, or rather, while laying, which is about 4.5 feet, a 3 amma space, but he also has a package at his feet, and he's going to take the package and put it by his head. So that is a space of a person themselves plus a bag, which they would move from their head to their feet. So you need another half amma at your head and a half amma at your feet for the space of the bag. That's a total of 4 amos. My benai, what distinction is it between whether you stretch or whether there's a bag there? Is it exactly a tight 4 amos, or is it somewhat of a stretched, loose 4 amos? If you stretch, then it's a looser 4 amos. Meshasha said to his son, when you come before Rav Papa, this 4 amos, is it by the general 4 amma, or is it by his personal 4 amma? An amma then being from the tip of your fingers all the way along your arm to your elbow. So that would be a personal amma. So which one is it? Sorry, that would be a zeres, and amma is all the way in the full arm. So which one is it? Is it personal, or is it the one in the Beis Hamikdash, meaning the general amma? which is just 6 tefach combined. And then he continued and said, and ask him like this: if he tells you that it's the Amma of Hektish, meaning the general straight Amma shel Hektish Yavina Loi, says, ask him, what about Og Melech HaBasham Ma'atei Olav? What about someone who's Og Melech HaBasham, which is the giant in the Torah, Og Melech HaBasham, but it's an example. What about someone who's really tall, right? For him, he's acquiring a Shabbos space. He's laying down on the ground, and he's over his 4 amos on either side because he himself is bigger than that. And if he tells you Vim Amar Lacha Amadidei, and if he tells you it's everybody by his personal Amma, Yavinale, Aimale, so say to him, my time Katani Lagabe Yesh Amr. Why don't we learn it by a halacha that says there's this Yesha Amru? There are those things that we said that go by each person based on what he is, and we have a list over there, or based on what he is, and one of them is how much drink counts in Yom Kippur as the minimum drink for the transgression of kares, which is a malolugmav, a mouthful, or a kohen. We know when he does a mincha, he has to put his hand in to the meal offering and take a full fistful, right? But that full fistful is which is called a kometz. It's going to depend on the size of the kohen's hand. So all of those things, it depends on according to each person. Why don't we list also this idea that the 4 amos in the limit of tachum of a person will also be depending on each person by his size. Fine. So he also came to Rav Papa when indeed Rav Misharsher's son came to Rav Papa. Amalei idaikin kulahai levatanina. If we're if you would ask me such questions on every part of the Gemara, we would not be able to learn. In other words, you're being too particular about each nuance, why it doesn't say this and what it says that. But indeed, he said to him, it really, in truth, it goes by each individual person. And Yavinale. But your question, or the and the reason it doesn't mention it by that it goes according to each person, because actually there's a lower limit. That means if a person's really tall, it'll go by his 4 amos, by his arms actually. However, if a person's short, a person has short arms, so then we're not going to say, well, he's got short arms, so he gets short amos. He gets short arms, so then we're going to go by the general amma. So the minimum is the general amma of 6 tefachim, which is the size that we call the Beis HaMikdash size, the one that is in the measuring stick in the Beis HaMikdash. However, if a person is tall, then it goes according to him. So we couldn't learn it. We couldn't learn it in the Mishnah of everything of a list of things that go according to the person, because it doesn't always go according to the person. Depends on whether the person is very big or not. Because there's someone whose short limbs and short arms would not be included in this halacha, because it would go based on the general. The next part of the Mishnah said, if there were 2 people, they each have 4 amos, but their amos overlap. His 4 amos overlaps his 4 amos. They can put their items in between, but they can't pass from one to the other. So what do we have to say? And what's it similar to? It's similar to 3 courtyards where the outer 2 courtyards can't share with the middle. Can share with the middle, but not with the outer ones. And that case was where you have 3 courtyards. Each one of them is open to the public domain. One of them in the center made an eruv with the one on each side of it. They can each carry from the middle to the outer and the outer to the middle, but not from the outer to the outer. So what do we need that lama davadima, that it's similar to that case? Rabbi Shimon is saying, I want you to understand this. It's like the 3 courtyards that open to each other and open to the public domain. Why over there do you make a distinction and here not? Why do you argue and not? Rabbanan hasam avshid yurin. There are many people live in the courtyards, and one may not know, and they'll see people carrying. So I disagree with you and say that just as they carry here, you carry here. But when there's three people, and each one of them has their 4 amma space, and they overlap with the middle, so there it's not going to be it's only the 3. We're not concerned that they're going to get mixed up and carry and pass from the 2 extremes, the 2 outsiders, through the inside. So we said the scenario is you have 3 courtyards. The outer 2 courtyards made an eruv with the inner one, and the inner one can carry from the to the outer ones to the inner ones, but outer one to the outer one cannot. So Gemara says why? Since the outer ones made an eruv with the middle guy, with the middle courtyard, so they all became one big courtyard. The concept of an eruv, as the term eruv means a mixture, when you make a meal, a joint meal together, the courtyard A with courtyard B, and then courtyard B with courtyard C, A and C are actually connected now because it's all one together with the outer courtyard, with the central courtyard, with B. Amar Rav Yehuda. So Rav Yehuda has one explanation. The concept over here is that the meals define an eruv space, that everybody is now a part of this one place wherever the meal is. So the scenario Rav Yehuda is proposing is that you have courtyard A, courtyard B, and courtyard C. They're all open to each other. However, courtyard B is not where where the meals are. Rather, courtyard B put in their breads and joined in courtyard C's meals, and they also put in breads and joined in courtyard A's meals. There are no meals in B, so therefore B can carry with A and C because they are a part of C and then they are a part of A. However, when A cannot carry all the way to C because they don't have a joint meal, and C can't carry to A because they don't have a joint meal. Rav Shesha however, Rav Shesha says, it could even be that A put all their meals into B, and C put all their meals into B. And now back to the question, well, if B is holding on to all, in the courtyard, holding on to all of the meals of A and C, so then A, B, and C are all one big happy family, and they should be able to carry through each other. No, it could be that they did put their meal in the jointly in B. However, they didn't put it into the same basket. They have a basket that says B and C, and they have a basket that says A and B. So B put in breads into both baskets, but C and A are not in the same baskets. In 2 different houses, and this is we're now a Memches Amid Base 48b. That this is, since they are not combined in one space, it doesn't count as a joint meal. Come on, and whose opinion is this? Kabei Shammai. This would fit with the opinion of Shammai. The Tanya we learned 5 people gathered their meals, their breads, into an eruv. But they put it into 2 different vessels. Shammai says it doesn't work as an eruv. And since in a courtyard, if not everybody in the courtyard joined, then it's an invalid eruv. So to here, when they didn't all put their meals in one basket, they put it in 2 separate baskets, it doesn't count as an eruv. Beis Hillel says it does work as an eruv. Now, that's a problem. If you're telling me that the explanation of Rav Sheshes is based on Beis Shammai, then it wouldn't be in our Mishnah. Our Mishnah wouldn't quote Beis Shammai over Beis Hillel. So the Gemara says, Beis Hillel. No, it really could be that it is the opinion of Beis Hillel. Perhaps Beis Hillel only said it's valid if it's in 2 vessels, if it's at least in 1 house. So now everybody joined together in one home, even though they're living in their own house, but by putting a meal into one home, they've combined into one community space in that home, and the courtyard is all servicing that one communal space, and so therefore it counts as a good eruv, even if it's in two vessels. But if it's actually in two separate houses, even Beis Hillel would agree it doesn't count. So Rav Acha said to Rav Ashi, Rav Yehuda Kasha or Rav Sheshes Kasha. Both explanations that we had, according to Rav Sheshes' explanation and according to Rav Yehuda's explanation, this halacha does not really work well. Why? Rav Yehuda Kasha, what was Rav Yehuda's explanation? Well, they didn't all put their meal into the center courtyard. They put their meal into the outer courtyards. Well, I have a problem. The middle, B, courtyard B, put a meal into A and put a meal into C, and that's how it joined into the outer ones, but the outer ones did not join. Well, actually, I have a problem. So let's chronologically work through Friday. Friday morning, the group of houses that lives in courtyard B said, hey, courtyard A, we would like to join with you and become one. They said, sure, give us some of your meals. They each gave a bread into the basket of A, and now they are one. A and B are the same. When B, later on in the day, takes meals and adds it into C's bundle, into courtyard C, they're not acting alone for themselves. After all, they are now a part of A, and they're representing A as well. And so when B joins C, it's really AB joining C, because A and B have already joined. The Kiv and the Eruvin Bahadi Chitzayna, once the center courtyard has joined one of the outer courtyards, it becomes all one. When it then goes and joins together with the other outer courtyard, which C, Shilucha Avda, Shlichus Avda, it is doing the proxy work. It's working on behalf of both itself and the other courtyard, which really it's one courtyard. So that's problem with Rav Yehuda's explanation, and so therefore it should work. And even the outer courtyard should be allowed to carry to each other. Ula Rav Sheshes Kasha, and according to Rav Sheshes, I also have a problem. What did you just explain? That courtyard A joined into B, courtyard C joined into B. However, they put them into two separate baskets or two separate houses. Great. But what ends up happening is that B and A, you just said, are one courtyard. When C joins with B, part of B didn't join. And we said before, the halacha is if only part of a courtyard joined into a eruv, that means if there are 5 units and only 4 joined the eruv, 1 didn't, it invalidates the eruv. Everybody has to join. Now 5 homes that live in one courtyard, and one of them forgot to join. That forbids everything, because you can no longer say the courtyard services the one home in this courtyard. There are actually multiple homes in the courtyard. The one that everybody put a meal in, and the one that didn't put a meal in. Only if everybody puts a meal in, then you can say, look, this one home is the only home in the courtyard because it's the communal space. Everything else is just communal space. Well then, over here, when A joined with B into one basket, so A and B are now joined. And then B and C joined together in another basket. That means not everybody in the first in B joined, because A is also a part of B, and A never joined into this meal, and they should forbid everybody from carrying. Nobody should be allowed to carry. Not only A can't carry to C, but A and B and C and etc. cannot carry either. So Rav Ashi says actually neither of these are good questions. According to Rav Yehuda, it's not a question. Even the irvala emtzayis ba'ad chitzayna, when B joined A in an eruv, and then B joined C in an eruv, and A didn't join in the meals, what they're saying is they are making it well known they only want to join with B. They don't want to join with C. And therefore A and B are a pair, and B and C are a pair, but A and C cannot carry to each other. When Friday morning, the center group, joined with one outer group, outer courtyard A. But A and C did not join each other. They made it clear what their intent is, that they're willing to join in with courtyard B, but they're not willing to join courtyard C. Rav Sheshes is also not a question. We say that B and A are one courtyard in order to be lenient and allow them to carry from one to another. Are they really one courtyard that we're going to be strict, and if B joins C, that A is going to invalidate it? No. A is clearly a different courtyard than B. There's a wall between them. There's an opening in the wall between A and B and between B and C. But A is a courtyard and B is a courtyard. Yes, A joined into the meals together with B and made them one in order to be lenient and carry, but not in order to be strict that if B now joins C, A is going to invalidate it for everyone because they didn't join. No, A is a separate courtyard. And if they don't want to join with C, that's fine as well. Let's stop over here. We're going to have tomorrow morning, we'll see that there's a machlokas about how to interpret